Okay, so after years of just brutal fighting, something might actually be changing in the Russia-Ukraine war. There's a new peace framework on the table, and we're going to dig into whether this could be the real deal, a genuine path to finally ending this thing.
So this is the question on everyone's mind, right? Is this war finally coming to an end? For the first time in what feels like forever, there are some pretty credible signs of a diplomatic breakthrough. So let's break down what this new peace framework is all about.
So, what's the big news here? Well, after some really high-level talks in Geneva, Ukraine did something, well, pretty significant. They've publicly acknowledged a common understanding with the United States on the main points of a peace plan. That's a huge step.
Okay, so what makes this moment so different? I mean, we've seen failed talks and false starts before. What's changed this time around?
The key words here are publicly acknowledged. This is a really big deal. This isn't just some rumor from an unnamed source, you know? It's a major public shift from Kyiv, and that signals a whole new level of seriousness. It suggests that the terms they're talking about, they might actually be workable.
All right, so if this is a serious proposal, what's actually in it? Let's pull back the curtain and take a look inside the plan, see what's being hammered out behind closed doors.
So check this out. The whole thing started with a 28-point draft from the U.S. But, and this is super important, after some intense back and forth, they whittled that down to just 19 points. Now, this wasn't just about cutting things out. It was about totally reshaping the deal to meet Ukraine's absolute non-negotiables, especially on their sovereignty and their future security.
And while, the full document is still under wraps, reports are telling us that this 19-point plan basically rests on 4 critical pillars.
This table really lays out the delicate balancing act at the heart of this whole plan. You can see Ukraine would likely have to accept some tough pills to swallow, like limits on its military and giving up on joining NATO. But, and this is a huge but, in return, they could get something they desperately need, real, concrete, enforceable security guarantees. We're talking like a formal defense pact with Western powers. And on top of that, a potential path to finally resolving the status of their occupied territories. It's all about trade-offs.
But, as you can imagine, an understanding between just the US and Ukraine is only one piece of this incredibly complex puzzle. To make a deal happen, you've got to get all the key players to the table and on the same page.
And this right here is the biggest hurdle at the moment. There is a major gap. While Ukraine seems to be on board with the new 19-point plan, Russia hasn't accepted it, not yet. Apparently, Moscow actually preferred the original version. So all eyes are now on a huge meeting planned in Abu Dhabi. That's where this new framework will officially be presented to Russia, and we'll see if they can bridge that gap.
And then you've got Europe. You can bet European leaders are not just going to sit on the sidelines. They're making it crystal clear they want a seat at that table. Their argument? Any deal that gets made is going to fundamentally reshape the entire continent's security for decades to come.
So all this brings us to let's call it the hard reality. Despite all these positive diplomatic signals, this potential peace deal is happening on some very, very thin ice. It's facing several really serious threats that could just cause the whole thing to collapse.
Yeah, it's so important to remember what's actually happening on the ground. While the diplomats are talking, the war is still raging. This isn't some theoretical negotiation in a quiet room. It's happening in the shadow of a brutal, very active conflict.
You can think of this whole potential deal as a house of cards. One major event on the battlefield could bring it all tumbling down. President Zelensky has the incredibly difficult job of selling any kind of compromise to a public that has sacrificed so much. And of course, Russia could just walk away and say no. And even if a deal gets signed, making sure those security guarantees are actually ironclad, that is going to be a monumental challenge.
Okay, so with this hopeful, but let's be honest, extremely fragile understanding, what's the path forward from here? What are the key milestones we all need to be watching for?
It really comes down to these 3 critical dominoes, and they have to fall in just the right order. First, Zelensky needs to get backing at home. That's huge. Second, Russia has to formally sign on to the framework. And third, those international guarantees. They have to be completely solidified and agreed on by everyone. Until all 3 of those things happen, the war, it's just going to continue.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Does this breakthrough represent a genuine, real, tangible turning point toward finally ending this war? Or is it just another false dawn? Another moment of hope that's going to fade away amidst the harsh realities of this deep-seated conflict and all the geopolitical maneuvering?
I guess only the coming weeks will tell.